Do you ever find yourself wishing you had a bigger reach on the fretboard? Does the size of your hands often leave you feeling like this? Now, whatever the case may be, we all have to come to grips with the reality that we have certain physical limitations when it comes to playing the guitar. And as far as I know, they haven't perfected the hand transplant surgery yet, so we're just going to have to work with what the good Lord gave us. Fortunately, there are plenty of ways for you to take matters into your own hands. See what I did there? So today, we're going to take a look at a nice beginner-friendly exercise for increasing your reach on the fretboard. Now, why would we do this? You know why. Because you're a guitar player, and this is GuitarAmado. Hello, everybody, and happy Friday. Welcome to another exciting episode of GuitarAmado. I'm your humble host, Adam Amado, and I've got new episodes coming at you every single Friday, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you like what you see. And speaking of subscribing, a huge thanks to all of my most recent subscribers. I've had a massive spike with over 30 new people joining the channel just these past couple weeks. Now, I do realize that might not seem like a massive spike to a lot of y'all out there in the land of YouTube, but I, for one, am extremely grateful. So, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you new people and ask you for one small favor. Just keep me up to date on the things that you actually want to learn. Leave a comment anytime and let me know what you're currently struggling with, or let me know if anything I talk about is unclear. And definitely feel free to share your thoughts as you explore your creative side. Now, I've been teaching guitar for about 14 years and playing guitar for nearly double that. So it's not that I'm afraid of running out of things to talk about. Believe me, I've got plenty. But I just want to keep this channel relevant to my primary mission, and that is to help beginner and intermediate guitar players develop a creative hobby that will last them a lifetime. Now, on with today's little tidbit, reach development. I can honestly say that every beginner guitar student I've ever taught has struggled with this. Even the ones with giant hands still have trouble controlling their fingers over larger distances. Although, to be fair, those blessed with bigger hands do tend to get through the struggle a little bit quicker. But no matter what the size of your hands, the trick to increasing your reach on the fretboard is not nearly as difficult as it may seem. Now, like I said, it may take a little longer for some folks, but what I'm going to show you today is one of the easiest ways for you to get comfortable with those larger distances on the fretboard. Because this exercise uses the natural design of the guitar fretboard to put you in full control of the difficulty level. Now, you've probably noticed by now that the higher you go on the fretboard, the closer the frets are together. And likewise, the lower you go on the fretboard, the further they are apart. Now, I want to show you how to take full advantage of this design to increase your fretboard reach. And we're going to do this using a simple four-finger exercise. So here's a video that I recorded back in the day for a few of my private students that explains it all for you. Enjoy! All right, so let's dive in today. I just got a simple four-finger exercise for you again, kind of continuing on with that subject. So remember, the underlying framework here is to get you to start thinking in terms of your own exercises. So remember, as long as you understand the basic concept of a four-finger exercise, you can use that to work on just about any technique that you want to. All right, so I know that's kind of a lot to take on right now in those early stages. So in the meantime, until you get more comfortable doing that, I'm going to continue providing you with just simple exercises and ideas for exploring the four-finger concept. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into today's exercise. So we're just going to explore a new pattern and continue working on getting comfortable moving down to the lower frets. All right, so the two things to keep in mind here, it's all in the left hand for this exercise, is finger coordination. So you're developing that control over each finger individually, and then also continuing to work on that spread. Like I said, going down to the lower frets, getting comfortable stretching those fingers out. Okay, so those are the 2 areas of focus for this exercise today. At the end of this video, I will go ahead and maybe elaborate a little bit more if you want to take it a step further and get more of a challenge. But for now, just focus on those 2 things. All right, so here we got some tablature. So we can see this sequence here is all on the first string. It's just telling you to play frets 12 to 14 to 13 to 15. So your first task here is just to get familiar with this pattern and ultimately memorize it. All right, so let's think about this for a second. What clues are provided to us beyond what the tablature says? All right, so the tablature just gives us fret numbers. But as we observe playing these frets and we keep that 4-finger spread here, we can also refer to this pattern in finger numbers. So it would be 1, 3, 2, 4. And thinking in terms of finger numbers is going to help when you start to move this pattern down the neck here. So you see now we've just kind of continued the pattern. So this first measure is the same of what you just looked at here. 12, 14, 13, 15. But now we're continuing this pattern down the fretboard. So we're moving down a fret each time. You see the first measure here starts on 12, then we start on 11, then we start on 10, and so on. So just the pattern shifts down 1 fret each time. The idea here is to get you in the habit of searching for patterns. That way you can take mental shortcuts when you're reading this stuff. So now when we organize this into finger numbers instead, and we think of that first measure as 1, 3, 2, 4, you can think in finger numbers all the way down the fretboard, and I think it's just a little easier than trying to read every single fret number on the tablature. So you're just thinking 1, 3, 2, 4, move down a half step. 1, 3, 2, 4. Move down a half step. 1, 3, 2, 4. Move down a half step. And so on. And remember, a half step is just the distance of 1 fret. So you're just moving down 1 fret each time and continuing that same 1, 3, 2, 4. 1, 3, 2, 4. So think in terms of finger numbers here. And try to get all the way down to this first fret. But don't worry if you can't get all the way down here. It'll happen over time. Right now, just focus on paying attention to which fret you get to where the troubles start to happen. So, if you can only get down to the 9th fret and then it starts to get a little awkward, that's fine. Maybe in a few days, you'll be able to get down to the 8th fret and then just make that slow, steady progress. That's the idea here. Steady, consistent progress. All right, so that's the basic exercise we're looking at today. So I just want to kind of close things out here with a few pointers for where your attention should be, what you're thinking about while you're doing this. So this, like I said, this is purely a left-hand exercise today. So you're not really paying attention to your pick strokes, just use whatever feels comfortable. So in your left hand, you're thinking of clean notes. So remember, clean sounding notes, you have basically 2 ways of cleaning up a nasty sounding note. So let's say, it's completely muted, or it's got that little buzz. It's just a nasty sounding note. So remember, the first way is to get closer to the fret. And then if that's not possible, if you, for some reason, you can't, like this A chord here, I always use that as an example. You got 3 fingers crammed into 1 fret. It's not possible for this first finger to be up close to the fret. So what do you have to do? You just have to press harder. So your 2 options, move closer to the fret or press harder. And one more thing that I really want to point out here is when you're shifting down. So when you're first starting out and doing this pattern and getting familiar with it, you might just want to stop in between shifts and kind of reset yourself, and that's totally fine. So something like this. then stop, think down a half step, then stop and think another fret down and reset yourself each time. But eventually you want to get to the point where there's no break in your shifts and it's just one continuous exercise. All right, something like this. Okay, so there's no breaks in between those shifts. It's all one continuous exercise. And the main factor that you have to pay attention to be able to cleanly execute that is when you shift. So pay attention here. 1, 3, 2, 4. When I play that last note of the pattern, while this note's still ringing out and I have my pinky on, I am shifting down and planting my first finger in the next position. That way, my first finger's there and I can just start the next pattern. Pinky hits, I'm moving down. Pinky hits, move that finger down. So kind of a weird thought here. I like to think of that as sort of like a slinky, if you've ever used one of those. So your hand is in the starting position, then it stretches out and shrinks back, stretches out, shrinks back, stretches out, shrinks back. So it's kind of like a slinky. You know, that might be a little strange to you, but you know, that's how I like to think about it. You can come up with your own analogy if you want. But that's the basic idea here, is you're just preparing that shift before the last note cuts off. The last note of the pattern cuts off. So that's about it for this exercise. I think you have enough to think about here with all the new stuff that I introduced. But if you do find yourself needing more of a challenge, I would just recommend trying to play this along with a metronome. So let me go ahead and demonstrate that for you. And if you really need a challenge, try eighth notes. All right, so what'd you think? Pretty simple, right? Just don't confuse simple with easy. Now, it's one thing to have that massive reach on the fretboard, but you don't want to sacrifice the quality of your sound in order to do it. Be sure to take it nice and slow and really concentrate on producing clean sounding notes. Now remember, that has everything to do with placement versus pressure. Now remember, those are directly related because the closer you are to the fret, the less pressure you have to apply to get that note to sound. So as I move my finger away from the fret, I have to press harder to compensate for that. So definitely keep that idea of pressure versus placement in mind as you go through this exercise. So that's all for now. Next week, I'm going to share part 2 of this exercise with you and give you some tips for increasing your overall practice productivity. So in the meantime, go get some work done on that reach development, and don't forget to leave me a comment. Let me know if this was helpful and if you'd like to see similar content in the future. So I will catch you in the next video, and until then, happy practicing, my friend.